My experience at Zak Bagans Haunted Museum. I thought that I would share my experience in case anyone else wonders what it's like. I haven't seen any recent discussions on the museum, so I hope this is helpful. I'm also not a believer in the paranormal, but I like spooky stuff and I was open to witness a paranormal event. Part 1. Check-in. I've seen other reviews mention that checking in was difficult in the past. I found the experience unusual but not too difficult. When I bought my ticket online, I had to choose a 1-hour time slot where the directions said that I could arrive anytime within that 1 hour. This loose scheduling would make it harder for others that had other plans. But since I had nothing else going on that day, it was okay for me. I selected the 2 to 3 slot and arrived at 2. They then ushered me into a waiting area inside. The waiting area is small and looked like a staging area for the next available group that could start the real tour. In this staging area, they upsold the RIP experience for those that only purchased a general ticket. Because I was on vacation here, I opted to buy the RIP since I had no plans to come back, although I have more comments on RIP later. The staging process felt like it took a while. At this point on my vacation, I was walking about 7 hours a day, so my feet and lower back were killing me. Eventually, we learned that the tour would take 2 hours. I suspected that we would have to stand for the whole tour, and I was right. Eventually, a couple other people joined our group and we could finally start after learning the rules and receiving a bunch of hype about the haunted objects. Part 2. The tour. We left the staging area and went outside to enter another side of the mansion. The first room we visited looked like it used to be a living room. Then, if I remember right, some person from the original family died in that room, which explains the hauntings. But right away, there's a confusing theme. I didn't know anything about this beforehand or what to expect. But from what I gather, the mansion itself is supposed to be haunted while at the same time serving as a museum for Zak's oddities. I just found it weird that it started as a traditional haunted house and then pivots to unrelated subjects. Each room after that features a different theme or object, and some of them it wasn't clear to me what the paranormal connection was. For example, one room features famous serial killers like Ted Bundy. But I never understood what the paranormal connection was. There are others like this without giving too much away. Other inconsistencies include too many spooky decorations that have no connection to anything. For example, there are a lot of dolls and mannequin heads at various points. In the initial room, they had a bunch of macabre decorations, but those had nothing to do with the haunted death. As a result, it felt weird to me and like a distraction. The RIP experience was also a bit weird and poorly done. My initial thought was that RIP members would receive an extra or extended tour. Instead, the tour guides awkwardly stopped the tour at certain parts so that RIP people could experience a unique room that the general admission could not. But general admission had to stand off to the side while RIP people did their thing. Most of the RIP experiences are short, so they don't take very long, but it was an odd way to handle it. The longest RIP experience involved the basement, which still maybe only took about 3 to 5 minutes. I am not sure what general admission did while we were down there except hear more stories from the tour guide. The worst RIP experience involved crawling through a dark tunnel for no real reason other than that you could. Over the tour, a general trend emerges where you visit a room, watch a video, or hear a speech and then move on to the next room. There was little entertainment value here, and I found myself tuning out the info for many of the exhibits. And as Mentium, before you stand the whole time, so if you've already been walking everywhere like I did, you'll be uncomfortable. About halfway through, the most entertaining part happened. A secret passage opened in one of the rooms we visited, leading to the other PSRT of the mansion, and we got handed off to a new tour guide. It seems like each guide handles certain sections of the mansion. At one point, we proceeded down a bunch of hallways filled with clowns. This was easily the scariest part, and there was even a real clown who appeared straight at the beginning but then disappeared. But sadly, after this one exciting part, we transitioned back to the formula of visiting rooms and watching videos. Some rooms had more pre-hype than others, as in they try to scare you about how haunted an object is in the room. Some rooms they also tell you not to linger too long unless you want dark spirits latching onto you. I wouldn't say we were rushed, but there were a lot of plaques and other readable signs that I think would be difficult to get through on larger tours. The tour ends at the gift ship. If you purchase RIP, you can accept a free shirt here and then purchase anything else you want. I didn't look too closely, but there were some of Zak's books and other merch like clothes. Part 3. Final impressions. I think that the Mos Sion would work better as a traditional haunted house. I noticed later that there are flashlight tours for ghost hunting, which sounded a lot more fun but cost $200 a ticket. From what I remember, you could 1.5 hours access. The tour guide mentioned at the beginning that they changed the tour, so if you come back it wouldn't be the same experience. I have a hard time imagining what they could change though. There are too many decorations and objects fixed in a permanent-looking way that I don't see what they could change. The experience works best as a museum where it's mostly about learning some paranormal history with some added flourishes here and there. For others who want a haunted mansion experience, then you'll probably be disappointed. I also doubt whether or not the history of certain objects is accurate. For example, my visit to the museum was the first I heard of the Dybbuk Box, but when I checked on it later online, it is a hoax. It has no connection with a Holocaust survivor locking a demon in the box. It's a wine cabinet purchased from someone's garage sale, and the owner admitted making up the whole story when he sold it on eBay. Yet the museum displays the box as a prominent item so dangerous that it's encased in glass. This was disappointing because it certainly looks spooky but is ultimately a baloney object. I think if they eliminated the spooky objects and converted to a traditional haunted house, it would be a better experience. Unfortunately, because they have so many items and collections, I don't think that's possible. The mansion itself felt spooky enough in dim light. I don't think it needed much other than a story about whoever died in the house way back when.